I'm drinking the Arabian Sea in 6 months of the year, and 6 months you can say I'm drinking Bay of Bengal. In many a year, I have had a zero water bill, and the BWSSB meter guy comes and says, meter kelsa marta illa, we need to replace it. Urban areas around the world have been represented. So you're a net consumer of natural resources and a net polluter of natural resources. Can you turn it around? Can you become a fertilizer and water factory? You'll get 2,250 million liters from the Cauvery. It will make a pit stop in Bangalore for one day. You'll add 800 million liters from groundwater, 3,050 million liters. All of this will become wastewater or used water. You can treat it, and you can actually ship 3,050 million liters outside the city. Good soil, good water, and good food are inextricably linked up. In a gated community, where there were 360 sites, every one of the sites would have drilled a borewell. They have to spend 4 lakh rupees for a borewell. 360 borewells, the same glass with water, 360 straws getting into it. Imagine at 4 lakhs into 360, we are spending 14.4 crore rupees. How do you turn it around as a community? What you do is you say no individual borewells permitted. We'll sink 3 borewells, community borewells, we'll share the water. But we say 360 recharge wells so that all of us put the water back into the glass.
Brilliant.
So not only does it make economic sense, it makes ecological sense, right? Both work together.
Yeah.
Every city, we have 4 taps. We have one tap, which is the river far away. The second tap is rainwater. The third tap is groundwater. The fourth tap is used water.
So, and how many of these 4 taps are activated as we speak?
Chitra and me, we say, if by design we had 40 square meter per person, you could harvest the water, rainwater, you could be water sufficient. You could harvest the sun, you could be energy sufficient. You could grow food, vegetables, basic nutrition sufficiency could come. You could be waste sufficient because both the toilet waste and the kitchen waste that you generate could be absorbed by the soil. The well is a communicator. So the well talks to us on a daily basis. When you go to the well, it tells you summer is coming. Now start using me less, right? Or this is a year of drought. You have to be really, really careful in the water. Or this is a year of plenty rainfall. I'm abundant. Use me as much as possible. Yeah. The tap doesn't talk to us. Yeah. Also with the water is when we work with these kere and the water comes back. The intangible benefit is when you see the women singing the harvest song of paddy. There's continuity, culture, and tradition also involved with water.
If every child in school could learn one thing about water today, what would that be?
Where does my water come from? Just if you know where my water comes from, and if you then know where does it go, that will be in itself a lesson of respect.
In Indian cities where water often feels like a crisis waiting to happen, one man has spent his life proving that it doesn't have to be this way. Meet Dr. Vishwanath Srikantaiah, the Rain Man. An engineer, urban planner, and water philosopher, he has revived wells, reimagined rainwater, and shown us that even sewage can be turned into life for farms and lakes. For over 30 years, he's asked one simple question. Can our cities produce their own clean water? And his answer is both radical and full of hope. In this episode of Good Food Talks, we dive into his vision of a future where good soil, good water, and good food flow together for everyone.
Hi Vishwanath, welcome to Good Food Talks.
Thank you. Pleasure being here.
You're known as a Rain Man of India?
Oh, it's not India. There's a email handle called Zen Rainman that I choose to put for myself on Gmail, and that's become the moniker by which I'm known.
Yes, but you're known as that, and you've been working in the space of water now for about 40 years.
40 years in another 3 months, yes.
That's amazing. So the first question that I want to ask, because you've been working in the space of water, is how safe is the water at home, the water that I drink?
Well, it depends. If we are talking about Bangalore City, where we are now sitting and having this conversation, if you're getting water from the BWSSB, the Bangalore Water Supply and Sewerage Board, then the water that they supply is absolutely safe to drink. It comes from the Cauvery River. It's treated and then it's pumped and sent to our homes. The challenge is that sometimes the water gets stored in some tanks and in overhead tanks, and there could be secondary contamination. If you're getting water from bore wells or from tankers, then you have to make sure that the water is good to drink. So basic rule, if it's BWSSB, good to go. If not, check your water.
And how do I check the water?
Two parameters that are very important. One is bacteria, obviously. So you get something called a H2S vial test.
Okay.
It's a small bottle. It costs about 20 rupees, 25 rupees. You pour the water that you want to check into it and observe it for 36 hours. If it goes black, then there's E. coli in it. So therefore, you have to take treatment processes for the water, meaning chlorination or use a RO system or a UV system or a filtration system. If it doesn't go black, no problem. The second parameter is what's called total dissolved solids or TDS. You get a meter, you can buy it online, a TDS meter, you check for it. If it's more than 500, then you need an RO system. If it's less than 500, you don't need an RO system, it's good to go. So check for E. coli, check for TDS, drink the water.
And the liquid that you spoke about, it's available online?
It's available online. It's called the H2S vial test kit for E. coli, and it's available online.
We've covered that. We've covered the part about how safe is the water at home. You're saying it is safe if it is coming from Cauvery.
Yep.
If it is borewell water, then there is a need for us to check.
Yes, a basic candle filtration, if you have it at home, that should ensure enough security for you to drink the water. If you're a bit rich and you can afford it, put in place a UV system. An RO system only if it's essential. Please only do that then, because there's a lot of wastage of water.
And how do I know if RO is essential?
Like I said, when you use a TDS meter, if the level is less than 500, you don't need an RO.
Okay.
If it's more than 500, perhaps you'll need an RO.
Okay. Got it. Okay. How safe is the future of water in Bangalore? And now I'm not talking about the safety of the water that we're drinking, but the amount of water the city is getting.
So here's the quantity explanation. We will get, very shortly, 2,250 million liters per day. All of it will come from the river Cauvery. A portion of it from the river Kabini, which merges with the Cauvery, and a portion from KRS, right? Krishna Rajasagara Dam. So this 2,250 million liters is basically enough for the city of 14.5 million people, if we distribute it equally. The challenge is the distribution network does not reach every home. The government is doing its best to do that. But it has to put more effort and make sure that every home is covered, what's called universal coverage with Cauvery water. If that is done so, then there is no shortage of water, both in terms of quantity and quality, right? We have to move away from borewells because deep borewells have high salinity and they have a problem. So that cannot be used for drinking purpose easily, for which we need to refill our lakes. We should make sure that our lakes are clean and are filled with rainwater. And when lakes are filled with clean rainwater, they recharge the aquifers and groundwater tables come up. You get water in open wells and your water quality improves, right? For which, again, we need to make sure that the sewage network is in place, that all sewage and wastewater is collected and treated in sewage treatment plants before it's released to nature. So it's a step-by-step process. We don't have to be alarmed about it, but we have to keep an eye also on the river Cauvery itself for something called emerging contaminants and make sure that we are safe from, for example, pesticides.
I was watching a podcast by Faye D'Souza, and in that she says that, any construction that has happened in Bangalore after 2010 does not get Cauvery water.
I need to correct Faye a bit. It's not done if she's not there. But the correction is that we are now getting 775 million liters more than 2010. So now there's a huge expansion in connection services, which is occurring already. And it will cover Brihat Bangalore Mahanagar Palike. So we will have definitely more connections.
So that is even the extended parts of Bangalore, all the new Bangalore that has developed around.
Right. So what happened was Bangalore became Brihat Bangalore by merging 7 city municipal councils and 1 town municipal council and 110 villages. So the city municipal councils and town municipal council have already been covered by the network. The 110 village project is on with the funds from JICA, Japanese International Cooperation. And that's bringing in the 775 million liters per day, which will cover the rest of Bangalore. But again, the distribution network needs to be focused on to make sure that it reaches everybody.
A friend of mine who works in the space of water, he said that like Singapore, Indian cities are also going to get to this place where we will start drinking treated wastewater. What's your take on this?
Every city, we have 4 taps. We have 1 tap, which is the river far away. So the Cauvery in the case of Bangalore. The second tap is rainwater, which falls on our head and we don't use it much. The third tap is groundwater, which is recharged by rainwater, but which is available in wells and borewells. The fourth tap is used water. We don't call it wastewater any longer. We call it used water. And treated used water can come back to the water cycle very easily. So these 4 taps, when they're optimized and designed well, there's no resource scarcity. And that's one thing that we have to get into our heads. There's no scarcity of water as a resource. There's scarcity of imagination, there's a scarcity of goal, and there's a scarcity of investment to drive towards that goal and get the desired results.
So, and how many of these 4 taps are activated as we speak?
Legally speaking, we've got the Cauvery working for us already, first tap. The second tap is Rainwater. 3,000 million liters per day falls on the city of Bangalore. Rainwater harvesting is mandatory as per law. Quite a few people follow it. A lot more have to follow it. Groundwater, 800 million liters per day is being used by more than 5 lakh borewells. And treated wastewater, Bangalore has one of the largest recycling systems in the world, next only to that of Mexico City. We have 34 sewage treatment plants. We will have 61 sewage treatment plants by the end of this year or by the end of next year. We will have the potential to treat all the wastewater that's being generated in the city. And a lot of the wastewater is being used, treated wastewater, to fill lakes within Bangalore and outside Bangalore in the drought-prone districts of Kolar, Chikballapur, Anekal, which means that we'll be filling 1,000 lakes, actually 1,200 lakes once the project is done with treated used water in the summer seasons. In the rainy seasons, rainwater, in the summer season, treated used water, which will make sure that farmers have water security. And in turn, the city has food security because treated used water is nutrient rich. It has NPK and the micronutrients. It's a balanced diet for plants if it's treated well. And when made available to farmers, they can ensure themselves water security 365 days a year, 366 every leap year. And the farmers of Kolar and Chikballapur are one of the most outstanding farmers. They can grow anything in the lovely soil. All they need is water. And that food will come back to the city. And if we make sure that the process is safe and healthy, then the city will be safe from water as well as food security shortages.
Okay, a lot of what you're saying is so positive. I mean, in this world of thinking that there's so much wrong happening as far as our resources are concerned. And yesterday having been the day where we crossed the amount of resources, what is it called? Earth
Overshoot Day.
Earth Overshoot Day. It's very heartwarming to hear.
I think
some of the
we
efforts.
need a lot of positive input. So let's say urban areas around the world have been represented and have been rightly so as consumers of natural resources from the catchment area, right? So you take water and then you pollute the hinterland. You use the water and you send sewage and industrial pollution downstream. So you're a net consumer of natural resources and a net polluter of natural resources. Can you turn it around? Can you become a fertilizer and water factory? Now, if Bangalore, what will happen is, you'll get 2,250 million liters from the Cauvery. It will make a pit stop in Bangalore for one day. You'll add 800 million liters from groundwater, 3,050 million liters. All of this will become wastewater or used water. You can treat it and you can actually ship 3,050 million liters outside the city. You've taken 2,250, you've given out 3,050 million liters. Provided you make sure that the water is treated adequately to the right quality and then sent out. And if it's sent out in that form, nature is revived, livelihoods are revived, and food security is achieved.
And it doesn't, of course, there was this news around Bangalore using sewage water for growing all its greens and, that having very high metal content. But you're saying that this is not like that. This is going to be treated water.
Correct. So one thing that we need to do is to separate industrial effluents from domestic sewage effluents. So sewage treatment plants get only domestic sewage, that is sewage from households. Industrial effluent should not be allowed into the system. It should be treated differently in effluent treatment plants and made sure that it's hazardous. It's very hazardous, so it's disposed of adequately. That is a step that we've yet to take fully, right? We still have industrial effluents in the Vrishbhavati, for example, and in Arkavati also from Peenya industrial area. So we need a lot of work to happen. But for the moment, the sewage treatment plants don't get excessive heavy metals. So the treated wastewater from sewage treatment plants is good to go, provided we do the adequate treatment to fill these lakes and to get into the food chain without any harm. Now, the other part that you mentioned about heavy metals, that's a challenge there. One of the ways to address it is till we get rid of the heavy metals, we use it to grow non-edible crops that we don't consume. Let's say we grow flowers, we go bamboo or eucalyptus, which can get into the livelihoods chain of the farmers, which protects their livelihoods, but also not consumed by us. So therefore, the heavy metal is addressed temporarily till we put in the effluent treatment plants. So I think a solution-based approach is better than just a problem identification approach.
Yeah. And how much of what you are saying is happening?
A lot of it is already happening. So already about 300 lakes are getting filled with the treated wastewater from Bangalore, in Kolar and Chikballapur, and in Bangalore city itself. A lot more will happen. There are investments already promised and being put on the ground. Wastewater treatment plants are being built. So all of that is happening. But there's not enough attention on effluent treatment plants. That has to happen. On the collection of factory waste, that has to happen a lot more.
Yeah, like you're saying that a water which has something should be used for this kind of crops. A water which does not have that can be used for this. So who's making that decision? Or how is this possible? I'm lack of imagination. I'm not able to imagine how this is.
Yeah, you're right. In the sense, there's no single institution which is responsible and designing the whole system. And that's the challenge for us. For example, with the wastewater treatment plant, the BWSSB collects it, treats it in the sewage treatment plant. The minor irrigation department lifts it and pumps it as a lift irrigation scheme to fill the lakes. But once the lakes are filled, it's with the Gram Panchayat or the minor irrigation department itself if it's a large lake. Once it gets into groundwater, it's the groundwater authority's domain. Once the farmer starts to use it, it's the farmer's domain. So we need a lot more of convergence in terms of designing and thinking, and some kind of institutional oversight which keeps tabs on the whole big picture, right? And that is the challenge of the 21st century. Institutional governance. How do we evolve institutions which are multidisciplinary, which look at food, water, and energy simultaneously, and biodiversity also, and are capable of managing the show by nudging the other institutions responsible for their domains to do their jobs correctly.
Which is not happening right now.
Which is slowly happening. So we need to build. So here's the thing. One of the ways that we address issues is by throwing stones at the caravan, just to use a metaphor. I think it's better to feed the camels. So what we need to do is to define what needs to get done and say, okay, can we do it?
Yeah.
Then we can point fingers. But to simply sit back and criticize is, for me, not enough of a response given the crisis that we face. So are we building the right institutions? We aren't yet. But can we? We surely can. And so what we need is something called a river basin institution, for Arkavati, for example, or the Shimsha, for example, which is looking at the entire river basin and saying, what's happening with agriculture? What's happening with soil? What's happening with water? What's happening with industries? And how can all of them talk to each other so that the health of the river basin and the health of the river is maintained? That river basin institution is eminently possible for us to create. We've started to do some of it in the Ganga. National Mission for Clean Ganga is doing some of it. We need to bring it down south. We need to bring it to all parts of the world and make sure those river basin institutions, which are democratic and professionally capable, are created.
And the kind of work that you're speaking of that is happening around Bangalore, is this happening in rest of the cities across the country as well? So
Bangalore has been a pioneer. There is Surat, for example, which uses treated wastewater for industrial use. There's Nagpur, which sends it to a thermal power plant. But Bangalore is the one city which has seen the farmers as having a right on this treated used water and giving it to them. Other cities are slowly following. There are smaller examples in Gujarat, for example, and in Andhra Pradesh where this is happening. But at scale, Bangalore is the second largest in the world, next only to Mexico City. So we have the chance to be the exemplar and demonstrate what we can do and show to the rest of India and persuade the rest of India to follow the path that we show.
That's beautiful.
It always says, if we are looking at what is capable, and one of the things with Bangalore is we were the first city in India to create a specific or specialized water utility called the BWSSB, the Bangalore Water Supply and Sewerage Board, because we realized that we needed that specialized capacities to deliver water 100 kilometers away and 300 meters below the city. So in 1964, we set it up, right? So we need the equivalent of a BWSSB in the river basin institution in perhaps 2025.
And you said that rainwater harvesting is compulsory in the city. And what percentage of the city is doing it right now?
Well, the recent numbers show about 2 lakh people have done rainwater harvesting, 2 lakh residents, apartments and everything. The city is 25 lakhs sites and apartments. So we are at 10%, just about at 10%. There are more people who will be doing it in the periphery as the BWSSB's lines expand. But we need to ramp that up a bit more and get more people persuaded to do it.
And what about the rainwater that is flowing on the roads?
So that's a bad design of roads. Unfortunately, our roads cut across hydraulic lines and hydrological lines, and there's not adequate arrangements made for sheet flow to cross the roads or for the road water itself to be taken to stormwater drains and then disposed of. We need better road designs which talk to the environment and which talk to itself first, make sure that the water is collected in the stormwater drain and the stormwater drain is networked to take it to the nearest lake.
I was recently watching a reel on something that has happened in Coimbatore, where they have laid these, I don't know what they're called,
Yes.
With which they're able to do amazing rainwater harvesting.
Correct. That's an excellent example of harvesting rainwater and collecting it. But even simpler ones exist in Bangalore, in many gated communities where you make a series of recharge wells in the stormwater drain.
Right.
You make sure that the water is filtered and pushed into the well 30 feet deep, 40 feet deep, and it recharges the aquifer. So yes, there are many innovation possible, and we should work towards innovating in capturing this runoff, which is very precious for us.
And that too would be BWSSB's mandate?
No, that would be
okay.
the BBMP's mandate because the roads belong to the BBMP and the stormwater drains belong to the BBMP.
And making sure the city has enough water would be
the BWSSB's job. Here is the thing. What we need is something called an integrated urban water management institution. Like I said, an institution which looks at all the 4 tabs,
Yes.
right? We don't have that.
Right.
But there's a lot of exchange now for when the lakes are getting rejuvenated in Bangalore. So in this rains in March, which came suddenly, 63 lakes filled up. About 25 lakes filled up 60% or 70%, which immediately increased the groundwater table in the surrounding environs, which lessened the burden on the BWSSB because Borewells were working, tankers were working, right? So now there's much more of a joint understanding that we need to manage groundwater better and our lakes better. And so the lakes then are supplied by treated wastewater from the BWSSB. They're owned by the BBMP, BWSSB fills it up. So the interaction has increased. It will hopefully increase more so that we manage it more holistically.
Yeah. I'm trying to understand this a little better. You said wastewater goes into the lakes
Yeah.
and that helps increase the
Groundwater.
And when the groundwater increase is happening, the quality of the water of the lake does not really impact.
It does. But what happens is the lake itself acts as a treatment unit. So there's algae growing in it and
Which purifies the water.
Which purifies the water.
Okay.
Then it filters through the earth. So the earth does a lot of filtration of the water. However, we need to improve the wastewater that enters into the lake. It should be treated. It
Right.
should be removed from phosphates and nitrates, which will cause too much of an algal bloom. That needs to be controlled and managed. It's the best suboptimal route that we have for ourselves.
The best suboptimal route.
India is a land of compromises. We are on an economic Kuznets curve where we don't have the per capita GDP or the overall budgets to be able to invest in cleaning up our environment completely. Yeah. So till we get to that stage, which we will in the next 20, 25 years, we should make sure that what we have of the environment is not permanently damaged, that it's rectifiable, it's protected, preserved to the extent that we can afford to do it and we for future generations too, right? So that may include a bit of compromise. We don't have the monies for the state-of-the-art wastewater treatment plant. But what is the treatment quality that we can afford, which will not damage the environment, which will be of value? That choice will have to be made for appropriate technologies. And that's the difficult burden we have.
So is water conservation, is it an individual play or is it a community play?
With water, we need to define who owns water. Water can be a state resource, as it is in dams. Can be a private resource where I drill a borewell and that's my water. Or it can be a common pool resource in the sense it belongs to the community where the state acts as a trustee of holding the water. It's now broadly a consensus that water is best managed as a common pool resource. Now, for that common pool resource to be managed, we need to put in place the institutional framework and the legal framework to do that, right? And that has become difficult for us to do it. So therefore, it's both an individual responsibility, it's a community responsibility and a state responsibility at the same time.
Okay. But if it's too many people's responsibility, it almost becomes nobody's responsibility.
Let's take an example how we sort it out. Rainwater that falls on my site, my house, it's my responsibility. In many countries, if I leave the rainwater into the drain outside, I have to pay for it because I'm polluting the environment. I'm adding to the burden of managing that water to the stormwater drain. What have we done in Bangalore? We said, okay, why don't we harvest the rain? 60 millimeters per square meter of roof area. So now you as an individual can contribute to a community effort of urban flood management. You're harvesting 60 millimeters for yourself, right? You hold on to the water in a sump tank or you recharge your aquifer for your use. By your individual private action, you're helping the community better manage urban flooding. The community, if it harvests the water which falls on common roads in their gated communities and recharges it, it benefits as a community, not as individuals, but as a community, right? Once it extends beyond the gated community, you go to the nearest lake. The lake is a state property. If the community works with the state in keeping the lake clean, and if the state makes sure that there's no pollution there, then the state benefits, the community benefits, and the individuals benefit because the groundwater table comes up. So in each one of our positive actions with each other, we can take responsibilities to reinforce overall sustainability, right? And that's essentially possible. I'll just give you one quick example on this. In the gated community, where there were 360 sites and no connection to the BWSSB. What would have happened is that every one of the sites would have drilled a borewell. I'm building a house, I need a borewell.
Yeah.
The borewell depth there is about 1,000 feet, which means that they have to spend 4 lakh rupees for a borewell. 360 borewells, the same glass with water, 360 straws getting into it, competing with each other, quickly to empty the glass, because you drill 1,000 feet, I'll drill 1,200 feet, right? We're competing with each other. And pretty soon the glass is empty. Who benefits? Imagine at 4 lakhs into 360, we are spending 14.4 crore rupees in quickly emptying the glass bottle. How do you turn it around as a community? What you do is you say no individual borewells permitted. We'll sink 3 borewells, community borewells, we'll share the water. 14.4 crores, 12 lakhs. You drop the investment, right? But we say 360 recharge wells so that all of us put the water back into the glass.
Brilliant.
We make sure that everybody is connected to the grid. Whatever the 3 borewell gives us, we equally share it. We put a meter, we price the water for ourselves so that we collect the money ourselves. We say if you take more than 25,000 liters a month, you pay 140 rupees a kiloliter. Astronomically high amount, so you don't do that. So the community says we have a demand limit. We will not take more than 25,000 liters. The monies collected are invested in a sewage treatment plant, which picks up all the sewage from the house, and treated sewage is given to every house for gardening purpose free of cost. So your net water demand even drops down further. What happens then is that the borewell water rises and you now get water at 100 feet, and one borewell is enough for the whole community. You've reversed competitive drilling to cooperative filling. And this is the model of common pool resource, which we need to work and replicate more at local levels, but also scale it up to reach the city as a whole. And it's possible to do it.
And creating those recharge wells, how much does that?
That costs 35,000 rupees each. Instead of spending 4 lakhs for a borewell to draw water out, you're spending 35,000 rupees to put the water back in, right? At best, 50,000 rupees if it's a deeper one. So not only does it make economic sense, it makes ecological sense, right? Both work together.
Yeah.
But we have to come together as a community and lay down the rules for ourselves to be disciplined to follow that. Not get into competitive modes, right?
Yeah.
That's the big challenge. It's not water. It's how do we get together as a community. That's the challenge.
And is there any gated community example of what you just...
There's one gated community which has been doing that for the last 12 years now.
Which one is this?
It's called Rainbow Drive. It's on Sarjapur Road.
Okay.
It's facing other difficulties because it's getting flooded now because there's too much water coming from a lake upstream. But as a community managing its water resource, it's shown that. And there are now other gated communities which have done the equivalent. So there are examples here.
And solutions that are...
Completely possible.
Completely
possible. So our laws have to work towards communitization, empowering the resident association to take that step of banning individual borewells, but placing the responsibility of making sure that every one of the households gets
water. Yeah.
So both responsibility and accountability, if it goes hand in hand and with empowerment, it can work.
So what was the moment in your life that made you realize that water is going to be your life's work?
There was no such great moment in my life. It was just a sort of a slippage. One of the incidents that I recall is we were building our house in Vidyaranipura in 94, 95, and we were buying a water tanker because we didn't have anything to build the house with. And it was raining, and both Chitra, an architect, my wife, both of us were standing and wondering, why is the rainfall being allowed to go to the storm drain, and why are we paying for the tanker at the same time, right? So we thought, hey, let's try and collect that water to save money, basically, middle class trying to save money by building a house. So that started an inquiry to say, hey, how much does it actually rain? How much water falls on my site? How much can I collect? How do I store it? What is the quality? And that began the journey in a way. But I think the journey is also a slightly more before that, because when I was studying civil engineering, I still remember fondly our hydrology professor, about the only professor I could really understand and I could get maximum marks in that subject in hydrology. And I thank Professor Srinivas Murthy for setting me on a journey. Good to remember your teachers.
Right. And what happened after that? Like, what was
Nothing. I forgot about all those lessons. You see, in the Mysore University exams, you were given 9 questions and you had to answer 6 in 3 hours. That was the only paper where I could answer all 9 in 2.5 hours. I still had half an hour and I'd answered all 9. And I was wondering, I mean, have I got it wrong or what's going on? So that was about the only subject I got a bit of understanding and deep knowledge to be able to do that.
Brilliant.
And that sort of has manifested itself, perhaps in the interest in water.
Right. And what happened after the whole, you trying to figure out for your house, where did the journey go on from there?
Yeah, well, then what happened then was Karnataka faced a drought. And we had by that time calculated how much rainwater we could harvest from rooftops. Right. So a group of us went to the principal secretary in charge of rural development and said, hey, look, rainwater harvesting could be a partial solution to this drought crisis. And he was game enough to say, okay, let's try it out in 1,000 villages. So in 1,000 villages, 20 houses were selected and the government said, we'll build you a rainwater structure for free, for 5,000 rupees per house, right? And so we got to tour and travel all across Karnataka, especially distressed villages, and see what could be done. And people saying, no way, what is this rainwater business? It doesn't make sense at all. But a few villages came forward and they started to do it. And I particularly remember Venamma was from a village close by near Vijaypura, and she got herself a totti built, which was 2,500 liters and connected to the rooftop. And she called at 11:30 in the night and saying, the totti is overflowing, we should have built a bigger one. Till that time, all the water was going waste and there was nothing at all. But once she started to see the potential of it, that at the doorstep there was enough water, which would save her 50 trips to the lake or to the water source. So these were sort of small joys that one got, and one sort of was inspired to continue it a bit more.
And I mean, I'm trying to see.
Well, then again, I met Muniappa, who's a well digger, and he came and tapped me on the shoulder when I was on my dirt track racing bike and said, do you want a well? For the life of me, I couldn't ever understand what do people dig wells and do people offer those services. So I told Muniappa, please come to my house on the Sunday, but I'm right now somewhere in the part of the city. And so he came and he explained that the Mannovatar community were a traditional community which dug wells. And they don't have jobs now because there are only borewells. So I said, what can we do? So I said, let's build a recharge well in front of my house the very same day. So we built a recharge well and we figured out that a lot of water could be put into the aquifers. We said, why not allow others to do this? And so it became the building bylaw for Bangalore. Rainwater harvesting and recharge also became a building bylaw. And the well digging community got a livelihood. And they think that they have dug 300,000 recharge wells in Bangalore. The well digging community, about 750 well diggers, which got then identified by a secretary in the Ministry of Urban Affairs, Madam Tara. She's now the additional secretary. And she said, hey, why don't we try it out in 10 cities, call it the Shallow Aquifer Management Program with my colleague, Dr. Himanshu Kulkarni. So we piloted it out in 9 cities eventually. It worked reasonably well. And now the ministry is supporting it to take it to 75 cities. And eventually they hope to take it to 4,400 towns and cities, right? Through government investment in what's called the Amrut project. So what started as a tap on the shoulder has become a national program. I am part of the journey. It's not that I take credit for it. I'm part of that caravan which is moving on. But these are serendipities and opportunities which your technical knowledge also gives you. But the satisfaction of empowering livelihoods for many people and making sure that it's a government program is immense.
Your professor would be very proud.
I'm sure he used to give me good marks, but I don't think I was, as a last bencher, he was particularly happy with my presence in the class.
So tell me something, like I live in an independent house.
Yes.
The JP Nagar, which traditionally has been filled with a lot of independent houses. It's a rented house. Can I, who's living in a rented house, have a rainwater harvesting
Absolutely.
system?
You must have a sump tank in your house to take the BWS's water. You would have rooftop which brings pipes down. All you need is to buy a filter, stick it to the pipe which brings the water from the rooftop, connect it to the sump. That's it. And you don't have to connect the entire rooftop. Just pick one pipe and connect it. You're in business. And then you can find ways by which more and more portions of the roof can be connected to the same sump tank that you're using for the BWSSB water.
So just one pipe, if I need to find a way for that pipe to connect it to the sump.
You need a plumber, he'll need 2 hours. You need to buy a filter online. There are many filters that are available. Just stick the filter to the pipe, which cleans the water before it goes to the sump tank, and you're in business.
My water bill will reduce.
In many a month, in many a year, I have had a zero water bill, and the BWSSB bill guy always comes, meter guy comes and says, meter kelsa marta illa, we need to replace it. And so we get into this extended conversation as to why the meter is not running. And it keeps going on and repeating itself. So yes, in certain months, for example, last month, I didn't need a drop from the BWSSB. This month also.
Yeah, because if the sump is full, then the overhead tank is anyways going to get filled up.
Absolutely.
So, okay.
I was just discussing with your young colleague, we've stuck something called a rain barrel, a 5,000 liter tank on the rooftop, on the terrace, and it picks up water from the staircase room. That gives us the entire year's water for drinking and cooking. Just a 500 liter tank. It fills up, you draw it down into the kitchen, you filter it in a basic candle filter, and you drink it and use it for cooking. And then you can say, I'm drinking the Arabian Sea in 6 months of the year, and 6 months you can say, I'm drinking Bay of Bengal, right at your doorstep. And you can make a difference between the Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea water because the Bay of Bengal water is sweeter.
Well,
seriously. And it makes the greatest filter coffee. And of course, I won't talk about Old Monk because that's prohibited in this conversations. But it makes it great for a Friday night.
Brilliant. Okay, so many people think of water as utility, right? And you've treated it as a living system. How do you see the connection between water and food, not just practically, but also philosophically?
Good soil, good water, and good food are inextricably linked up, right? So we need all three to function at the same time. The industrial mode of food production has given us food security, but not nutrition security. We know that. Yeah. We've realized that the soils are being permanently damaged by overuse of fertilizers and pesticides. Bad quality water, even from irrigation dams, has caused salinity and sodicity, where salt has accumulated on the top of the soil and has destroyed millions of hectares of land, of soil in North India especially, but also in many of the dam irrigated places. Irrigation from borewells, which have high salinity, damages soil. So we now know that it's sweet water, fresh water, and soil, organic carbon, and soil biodiversity, which is at the root of good food. So we need to make sure that all those are tied up. Now, how does it link up to wastewater and other forms of used water? Traditionally, even in my house, I have something called a compost toilet. I separate pee and poo. Pee diluted 1:5 is the most excellent nutrient for food. I grow rice on my rooftop and I grow ragi on my rooftop, and that's fed by the composting toilet, which I call my fertilizer factory. Poo, when degraded or composted over 6 months, is excellent fertilizer again because it's got P and K. NPK, all the micronutrients, no pollution applied to the soil, allow the biodiversity of the soil to work with all this rich material and convert it productively to feed the roots and feed the plant and then get good grains, right? So that's the cycle. Similarly, from urban wastewater, traditionally, and even now, in small towns like Vijaypura, I know farmers who pick up raw sewage, but they understand the toxicity as well as the nutrient content of it, store it in small tanks, apply it through furrow irrigation, not flood irrigation, and grow the best quality mulberry for silkworm rearing, right? So it depends on how you understand the nutrient in each material, the dangers of each material, and deal with it proportionately, not to damage the soil. Keep the soil alive. That's the name of the game. And if we do that, we have a rich environment for ourselves. The one caution that one has to have is that we are overdosing our households with chemicals, from shampoos to detergents to soaps. We need to keep a watch on that. We need to make sure that those shampoos and soaps are eco-friendly.
Yeah.
everything that we use, products that we use are eco-friendly, then the used water itself becomes eco-friendly and it becomes a great source of nutrient, right? So we've got to get chemicals out of our life as much as possible so that the food that we eat is healthy.
Ladakh does this, right? What you just spoke
It's a
of?
traditional toilet. It's a composting toilet. But why not Bangalore?
Yes.
I mean, there's no reason why you can't do it. My friend from Bihar, Mekpanabian, actually designs these to be flood-proof toilets. Suppose you put a composting toilet on your rooftop, the flood water levels can rise. Your traditional toilets will not work. The sewage network will not work. The pit toilets will not work. The septic tank will not work. But your compost toilet will work. So they're flood resistant. They're also, it's called Faideman Shauchalaya, meaning a productive toilet, right? That's the name that's been given to it. And in Ladakh, the tourists go now and demand flush toilets. Whereas the traditional Ladakhi and Spiti toilet is some of the best response to the water scarcity that exists there. So we need to learn to see waste, which we call waste, as a resource, and including human waste. The only thing is that I am responsible for the waste. As Gandhiji used to say, I don't get somebody else to do the cleaning for me. I clean it and I make sure that I maintain it. It takes 5 minutes a day.
Shashi recently, not recently, I think a year back, was telling us the story of, this one village that he went to in Andhra, and how that region at one point would not get enough water, and then it started getting the Krishna river water flowing in, and suddenly all the farmers started growing rice.
Yes.
But there was a problem because the salt started coming and settling on top, which was not the case because that soil was capable of growing something else. And these are some of the problems that we don't anticipate, right? Like even from a food point of view.
I don't know why. Absolutely right. We design the best dam and canal system without thinking of drainage. And so therefore the sodicity occurs and comes. Now we design the best water supply system in our cities. We don't think of sewerage. So a huge chunk of water comes in. What do we do with the wastewater? It's all over the place, polluting and everything, contaminated. So we have to think more holistically and put in place systems which address the problem completely, not in a complex way. One of the best ways to learn is from the tank irrigation system where we worked within Kolar, where traditionally the command area has been used for paddy. But that's over centuries that the whole system has been perfected. That land can only grow paddy or it can grow sugarcane. It can't grow ragi because it's been puddled and it's clay. Right now you have to respect the land and the soil and you don't have to villainize paddy. Paddy needs to be grown where paddy can be grown, where it's traditional, right? And what happens then when you irrigate from the tank, the groundwater table comes up. So the paddy fields are flooded to prevent weeds from growing, but the water is not lost. It's recharging the aquifer and then you can use it again for the second crop, right? So we have to think a bit more systematically about everything. And these soils don't get salinity because the rainwater collected in the tank has no soil, has no salt in it. So systems thinking is crucial.
Yeah. I think like there's an example of this at Akshayakalpa, like, all the things that we do. And we speak very strongly about the whole closed loop system that we create, right? Puriyambakam, which is, a place in Chengalpettu district close to Chennai, which is where we started our second cluster and 30 acres of land. And, we started, when we went there and we started figuring out what to grow, how do we build this land, all the neighbors, told us that you can't grow anything over here because 6 months it rains and 6 months there's drought, right? So whatever you try to grow is going to get flooded, right? And which happened. But as a marketer who is watching all of these things, there were videos that were being circulated in our groups, in our, where people who are working on the field, Akshayakalpa employees on the field, are sending videos saying it's raining. And Shashi is telling them, okay, so the water is going this way, then create a pathway over here and it's going to go there. And, all of those things. And today we've reached a place where that entire land is completely water resilient. Right. We collect enough rainwater. We've created a huge pond. We've grown 80 tons of rice on this, the same, piece of land. The rice that is coming here sometimes also comes from Puriyambakam. But there are many things that we did, right? We did trenching and bunding, septas were created. We did very good soil management. And of course, cow integration was done to make sure that the soil is brought to life. So we worked with the soil, we worked with the water and creating an integrated ecosystem, which created closed loop. From what you're telling me, what I'm realizing is that closed loop is not just something that is required in agriculture, but it is required everywhere.
In cities too. What happens in cities, as you rightly point out, Why do we have mounds of garbage? Even biodegradable garbage in cities, because the absorbability capacity of the land has been distanced from it, right? Now, I generate kitchen waste. If I had soil and a garden, I could have composted it and applied it in the soil and the loop would have been closed. Now, from my flat, I send it down, it gets segregated, it gets collected, and then it gets centralized. And then you don't have a market for the compost that you generate in the city because your farmland is 100 kilometers away, and then it becomes expensive to transport it. So this distancing of soil and living has caused a problem. So Chitra and me, we say, if by design we had 40 square meter per person, 40 square meter per person, you could harvest the water, rainwater, you could be water sufficient. You could harvest the sun, you could be energy sufficient. You could grow food, vegetables, basic nutrition sufficiency could come. You could be waste sufficient because both the toilet waste and the kitchen waste that you generate could be absorbed by the soil, right? And you could be biodiversity sufficient because if those 40 square meter is nurtured, you have incredible insects and butterflies and everything coming in. So can we not use these kind of laws to design our cities, our neighborhoods, and our farms eventually, right? And it's possible to do it if we do this linking between soil and resources and water and energy.
And again, are there examples, like Akshayakalpa is an example from a farm point of view.
Yeah.
Are there city examples of this closed loop systems being created?
So Bangalore city has the single largest number of modern earth homes for any city in the world.
Modern?
Earth homes.
Earth homes,
built
okay.
out of earth, mud blocks, right? Soiled mud blocks.
Right.
And many of these homes demonstrate rainwater harvesting, solar power, food, terrace gardening as it's called. And all of this is available in some level or the other as examples everywhere. I think we don't do a good job of talking more and convincing others about it, right? So if we are able to demonstrate that, then the circle should grow more.
And even scaling, I think, is also...
Scaling is easy as replication, not scaling as one unit doing 1,000 things, but 1,000 people doing a million things, right? So scale as replication is entirely possible.
Can you explain that a little?
So here's the thing. If a village rejuvenates a tank, then the next village comes and learns how tanks are rejuvenated and does it on its own. Then you have replication, right, of the principles. But if the village tank is rejuvenated by one person, who then goes to the second place and rejuvenates the second tank, and then goes to a third place and rejuvenates a third tank, that's not a model that's likely to scale. But villagers learning and replicating tanks, that knowledge builds the skill set, which then creates ownership, is the way to go ahead.
That's beautiful. And it's very similar to what Akshayakalpa does with its farmers as well, right? Like we say that we want to build role model farmers per village, right? Someone who you can see and replicate.
Absolutely.
Right? And we don't want all the farmers in that village to become Akshayakalpa farmers. It doesn't matter if you don't become. But you're just doing the right things by your farm, by your soil, by your cows. And that's all we want.
Absolutely. That's the way to go. We work with Asha from a small group called Arohana in a town in district of Mulbagal in a Gram Panchayat called Omittur. And Asha and Arohana work on desilting tanks. The silt which is taken from the tanks is applied on farmers' fields. We make sure that some of the silt reaches small and marginal farmers also. Once the silt hits the field, they don't need a gram of fertilizer for 3 to 5 years. It's natural farming, right? So, and then they grow forms of rice which are traditionally lost, and they grow it. And then they become demonstrations on their own. Other farmers see it and they copy, right? Replication is a big word. Imitation. And you just imitate and then you grow. And then can you create that system by which there is this collective thinking that we should come together as a group and get that silt to our farms once in 8 years or once in 10 years and then continue this farming so that the tank is also maintained and this field is maintained. How do we build that culture? That is the challenge. It's not the tank itself. It's the people behind the tank. That's the challenge, right?
Creative Commons, it's called, right?
Absolutely.
That's what Shashi always refers to it as.
It's the Creative Commons. It's coming together, but also being individual. Now, in my farm, I'll grow this rice. In your farm, you grow bananas. No problem.
Yeah.
But let's follow the principle of doing what we want to do.
Yeah. No, it's a beautiful point that you're bringing up because like for the last 4 years that I've been working with Akshayakalpa and I hear all these stories. For me, all of these things were about the village and about the farm. But you're saying that so many of these things can actually happen in the cities, right?
City is not a bad place. We congregate in cities for various reasons. There's the intellectual stimulation. There's a market stimulation. There is these facilities that are available to us. How do we make them livable? That is our question. It's not cities or rural areas. Is it livable rural areas or livable cities?
So true.
And for each one of them, we can design the parameters by which we make it more and more livable. I'll give you one more example of wisdom from the ground. We cleaned up 6 wells in a town municipal council called Hunsumarnhalli on the way to the international airport from Bangalore, right? In 3 wells, the municipality put pumps, linked it up to the distribution network. These are old dug wells. Linked it up to the distribution network and started supplying water. In one well, a woman came to us, a slightly older woman, and the lady said, please don't put a pump. We had promised our CSR partner, the corporate social responsibility partner, that we would put a pump. So my group was agitated. Oh, she's not allowing us to put a pump. So we said, let's listen. She says, look, if you put a pump, a motor they call it, if you put the motor, this water will go to the apartments in the nearby. They'll overuse the water.
Yes.
This well will go dry. We won't be left with any water. But if we women, and there was this small community there, if we go to the well and draw 4 bindiges every day, we know the quality of the water. The well will last us throughout the year. When we go to work, we'll have a sense of water security that when we go back home, there is water for us, for having a bath, for washing the dishes, for whatever. There's this mental peace that we will get. So don't put that pump. This was such an excellent lesson in demand management, as we call it in modern parlance, or living within the ecological resource availability of a particular space. What happened in 2024 was Bangalore went through this 182 days of no rain and a severe drought. That well had water at 10 feet.
Wow.
Throughout the year, right? Now, even now, when you go there, it's crystal clear water and the well is there because we didn't put our demand more than what nature can supply. We, meaning the women, did.
Yeah.
They also had an economic argument that says 1 bindige, if I go to the RO plant, I pay 5 rupees for 20 liters. So 4 bindiges is 20 rupees. So I save 20 rupees a day. A month I save 600 rupees. But more importantly, that water security that I have in my head when I go out to work, there's nothing like that, right? So learning from the wisdom of people who are on the ground is crucial for us to carry on our work. We have the luxury of having knowledge of English, of being able to write project proposals and to drive from place to place. Many women don't have that opportunity. For want of that opportunity, they're not able to scale up solutions and take it forward. How do we create this opportunity for all these people who have grounded knowledge is our responsibility. And that's the responsibility that we try to take on ourselves at Biome Trust to the extent possible, right? We don't claim that we are the world's greatest, but we love to listen to people on the ground and try to help them.
And how did you convince everyone not to put the pump in that?
So even my young colleagues, there is experience that is lacking in them. And so for us as mentors, that's what we need to bring to the ground, conversations. And once they're persuaded, they are the now champions who take it forward. We've learned our best lessons from people who are water operators, valve operators in town municipal council. I was talking to your colleague again. In Tumkur, we said we'll revive some old dug wells. The city municipal corporation engineers are Borewell alle neerilla bavi anta matartira. Borewells don't have water. What are you talking about dug wells? But when my colleague Vinay went from place to place with this valve operator, they showed us wells which women were already using. But nobody was cleaning them because in their head, the well didn't exist. So all we had to do was to clean up the well, disinfect it. And the women were so happy in many communities. In many places, they would show us, if you clean this well, it will go to the school, government school, and the toilets will work better. Because the water is khara, it's salty water, but we can use it for toilet flushing. And the toilet is not functional because there's no water. So little things like that matter a lot. And we need to listen more.
Someone else who had come on the show said that, the whole problem started when water started coming from the tap.
Yeah.
Right? Till that happened, there was a lot of effort that was being put behind us drawing the water.
So the tap is... the well is a communicator. So the well talks to us on a daily basis. When you go to the well, it tells you summer is coming. Now start using me less, right? Or this is a year of drought. You have to be really, really careful in the water. Or this is a year of plenty rainfall. I'm abundant. Use me as much as possible. Yeah. The tap doesn't talk to us because the tap doesn't tell us what source the water is coming from. But the tap brings convenience. We can't wish away the convenience of water inside our homes. It's the public health blessing of the best order, including the toilets that we have and the taps that we have. This is what has caused our average life expectancy to go up from 32 years to what is now 72 years, right? So that's a big blessing. Now, how do we make the tap talk? The one way we can make the tap talk is through the bill. The bill which we get every month in our homes should tell us how much water is in the dam, how much it costs the government to bring it to us, how much are we paying for it, and how much are we really entitled to. So I think communication is at the heart of getting us to be more wise in our natural resources, backed by a fiscal muscle. The beauty with water is it's a human right. Everybody should have equal access to it, irrespective of their capacity to pay. But beyond a certain point, it's an economic good. Where does it become an economic good? And if you don't understand its economic good role and capture the value of that water, we will be wasting it. And there will not be enough for us. Again, the last point that I want to make, and this really gets me, is that if we pay the true ecological price for water, and what is that ecological price for water? When we return it back to nature in the same quantity and quality which we took it.
Yeah.
If we do that, in Bangalore, if we pay 95 rupees for 1,000 liters, we can do that. We can take water from the Cauvery, use it in our homes, collect it back in the sewage network, treat it to the same quality and release it in the Cauvery at the same point where we took it without any loss of water. Let's say about 10% or 20% loss. We can return it if we so choose to. Then there is no scarcity. There is no pollution. Imagine the Cauvery runs as much as possible because she has all the water that we took from us. And this is urban use. Whereas agricultural use is consumptive, it evaporates. Right. Urban use is non-consumptive. Yeah. We return it back as used water. And if we collect all the wastewater generated, all our lakes are clean, all our streams are clean, Rajkalways, wells, everything is clean. Why is it that we can't get this simple thing going? It's a question that I ask myself.
And
I say that we don't talk enough about it. We don't have a picture of hope. We live in a world of despair, but we have to set ourselves goals which are achievable. And as a community, we have to achieve those goals one step at a time to clean up the environment, to make sure that there's universal distribution of water and water is available as a human right to everybody. And that the environment is not polluted. I mean, this is the World Bank talking at some point of time, but this is also communities talking. Both of those approaches are relevant.
So what are farmers getting right as far as water management is concerned? Are they getting what are they getting right? Yeah.
They're doing the most difficult job on earth, right? Farmers, and they're struggling because the market is sending signals to them. The government is sending signals to them. And the seed companies, others are sending signals to them. And within all that mess, they have to make a living for themselves. So you go through a process. If let's take tomatoes in Kolar, boom and bust, right? Water is scarce, but you use the scarce water to grow tomato and the price is 1 rupee a kg. It's not even good enough for you to harvest. So what have they done wrong? They have put in all their effort and they've grown it. But they've been ill-served by society. It's ill-served by the market, ill-served by the state, and ill-served by society who are not able to buy those produce at the prices that they genuinely deserve, right? So now we got to get that act together. So we got to, and this is a question of buying power and purchasing power. As our cities become richer, as our folks become richer, we need to pay a higher price for good quality products, which are organic, which are natural, which are not grown without poison in them. And if we start doing that, then the farmers become better, we have become better. So that compact between consumption and growing has to become more efficient, and more virtue signaling has to happen on both sides.
Yeah, I think the more more conversations that happen around this, I think as consumers, we have this feeling that money can buy whatever we need, right? Yeah. And one of the first things that Shashi said when I joined, and I was already a customer of Akshayakalpa for 2 years before I joined Akshayakalpa, was that money can't buy good food anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Just because you have all the money and you can throw it on the table, and you think that that is going to be enough for you to get good food for your family, it's not going to be enough. Yeah. You have to know what is happening. Right. I think what he was trying to say is you have to become a part of that ecosystem for you to, and if you really want to make that shift towards better food for your family, which can be a very selfish need, and that there's nothing wrong with that. You have to become a part of that, right? I think what I hear you also saying is that there is no way that you can sit in your fancy apartments and think that everything is going to be served to me on a silver platter.
The market will not deliver. You will need to get engaged. You'll need to create those markets with the right producer and the right buyer, and we'll need to create systems of trust where we know the food that comes to us is good quality food and we're willing to pay the right price for it so that the grower also benefits from it. Those kind of systems will have to be created.
And the same with water as well, right? Like any resource looks like it is something where we have to, as citizens, we have to get involved.
Yes, absolutely. And so we opt out by buying bottled water, by buying RO systems. We think that we've solved the problem for ourselves, but we have not. It's a short-term measure. It's causing greater problems. At some scale, we have to have those societal goals, which are clear to us. Why is it that if I go to Finland, for example, my son studies there, in every tap it's written, this water is potable. There's no borewell. There's no tanker. There's no RO system. There is no sump tank. There's no overhead tank. Imagine the monies being saved for good quality water that's delivered. If I got water 24/7 in my home from the Cauvery whenever I opened the tap, why would I need a borewell? Why would I need a tanker? Why would I need a filter? I wouldn't. So instead of buying a bottle or buying a filter, I should ask that water be delivered 24/7 to me from the Cauvery and make sure that gets done.
But this is a huge behavioral change in a day and age of 10-minute delivery where, all of us are, it's everything that you're saying is right, but we've moved so far away from it, isn't it? Like So it's never a majority which gets things changed. It's a small minority which gets its teeth into it and makes sure that change is delivered. You don't need 51%. You need 5% who hold on to this truth and persist to get it done. And I'm hopeful that a lot of youngsters will be part of that 5%. I'm sure that it will be. We don't have to lose hope on that. We need to be strategic. We need to create the right narratives. We need to create the right communications. And it's not criticism of one institution or one government or anybody. Mm-hmm. It's saying, how do we work together to get this done? And that kind of narrative building will happen in the future. So you have helped revive over 10,000 wells in Bangalore?
Well, actually, the well diggers have dug 3 lakh recharge wells. And they've revived dug wells more than 10 to 12,000. The well diggers have done it. I haven't done it. I have helped the well diggers to do it.
So the difference between a regular well and a recharge well is this is a covered well that is there versus a regular well, which is where I can draw water.
So a regular well, you take water from the ground. In a recharge well, you put water into the ground.
Correct. But correct. You can't take away water from the recharge.
If you're good and if the aquifer is good, you put enough water, you can start to take the water from the recharge well. Many recharge wells have become regular wells. Many regular wells have also become recharge wells. You can always recharge a regular well with rooftop rainwater and filter it and put it. So both roles can change depending on the aquifer characters.
So 3 lakh wells?
Is what the well diggers think. And they've revived some beautiful old open wells all across Bowring Institute, Devarjivanhalli, you name it, many places.
Beautiful. So what role can these old water systems play in feeding a fast-growing society like us?
Like I said, we have 4 taps, of which groundwater is a very important tap. And in groundwater, if we don't feed groundwater through our lakes, through our tanks, through our recharge structures, the groundwater will go dry. So the more we take care of our aquifers, there's more water available for us. And the best water is from a well because you need very little energy to pump it out. In fact, you don't need any energy if you just draw it out, right? Okay. Which means that there is less cost to the water. There's less power consumption. Power is scarce. And less carbon emission. So it's climate resilient and climate proofing ourselves. So get the groundwater and the aquifers full. Make sure that the water is available at ground level in our wells. That's a sign of progress. If you say that my well has good clean water, it means my environment is clean, that I've taken care of water properly.
You were talking about drawing water. I remembered I have a childhood memory around this where I'm like in my village. At that point, we did not have the whole pump system and I was a little girl back then. And we all had to draw our own water to have bath. And Udupi can get really hot, right? It's just, the heat over there and we didn't have, like, at that point in the house, we didn't have fans, we didn't have any of those things. And I have the memory of drawing water, filling, the hande, and just like 4 also was so, it's training to do that, right? Like, but yeah, like you will measure it then.
You know the worth of water when you draw water from a well.
Absolutely.
Every milliliter counts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then taking that bindige, bringing it back, everything is physical work.
And even just to get the plastic pots into the water in a well is an art in itself. So, right, many people have forgotten. If it's a brass bindige, it goes in.
That aluminium bindige that...
even that floats. You need the knack of getting
making
it done.
yes.
Yeah, it's all that. With plastic is even more difficult. So, yes, there's the whole culture behind it. One of the things also with the water is when we work with these kere and the water comes back, the intangible benefit is when you see the women singing the harvest song of paddy. And in the village where we worked, Pichkuntlali, for 14 years, they hadn't sung the song. So once the kere was full and the paddy was planted and the paddy was being harvested, you figured that it was only the older women who knew the song. The younger ones didn't, because they hadn't heard it for 14 years, right? So then there's continuity, culture and tradition also involved with water, which the well also brings, but the kere also brings, which we sometimes don't put into the picture of what we need as a society.
No, we do. I mean, I think all of that plays such a... like sometimes when you feel that you're feeling, like I feel this, when I feel drawn to go back to nature and do something, one of the things that comes in my memory is the folk songs.
Yes, absolutely.
And there's something so soothing about it, something so healing about it, which we've lost in our city lives, isn't
absolutely,
it? Yeah.
Absolutely. Papa Ma is a singer in Kolar and she sings how they trace every tank, the rain, please fall on this slag. This tank, come to this tank, come here. And so you trace 999 tanks through songs.
Beautiful. So would you say Bangalore today is water resilient?
Much of Bangalore is. For the poor and the informal, they're not still resilient because they don't have access to water. So those who have water connections from the Cauvery, they're water resilient. Those who don't, they are struggling.
Okay. And so if Bangalore had to become water resilient at some point, what do you think would change first? Our food system?
So if it's to become water resilient, the first thing is universal connection. Every house should have a connection of a pipe to get the water to them, and universal connection of sanitation systems so that wastewater is taken out. That builds resilience on its own.
Right.
Because the tap will always have some water or the other. The second thing to do is to clean up our environment from the lakes to be clean, to become water resilient, and to have no sewage flowing in our system. If we are able to achieve both these things, then we are water resilient.
Gurgaon is facing a lot of problem right now with its
Absolutely,
rains.
absolutely.
And similar problems, you think?
Hyderabad, Gurgaon, Ahmedabad, Morbi, many cities. Every city is facing this sudden high-intensity rainfalls, which climate change is bringing, urban heat islands are bringing. So Bangalore used to get 60 millimeter per hour intensity rainfall. Now we have 180 millimeter per hour. The concretized portion of Bangalore was 30% or 40%. Now it's 95%, right? So you have huge runoffs now and you have huge intensity of rainfall. So every city faces that. And our drainage systems are not adequate to manage these high intensity rainfall. So we're getting waterlogging and flooding everywhere, all across the globe, including New York.
So you worked with schools, housing communities and policymakers in the space of water. So where do you see the largest change coming from?
Everywhere. I think all of the spaces have to talk to each other. The schools have to become water literate. The students have to become water literate. The principals and teachers and the school development management committee has to become water and sanitation literate so that the children learn what the value of water is. Communities have to learn that water is a common pool resource, as the examples I was giving, and that they have a greater responsibility beyond the individual to take care of further things. And policymakers have to keep their ears open to listen to on-ground issues and make sure that manuals, guidelines, and investments are directed to make communities resilient rather than merely to provide infrastructure. You have to build capacities to be able to manage systems better, which I think is happening slowly, step by step.
We have a program called Good Food for Schools, where we're going to schools and we're teaching children how to grow their own vegetables. It's a 5-week program, where starting from preparing the soil to harvest, we handhold the children. Do you think
Absolutely.
water management can become a part of this program?
Absolutely. So what we do in schools is put up a rooftop rainwater harvesting systems, but we also give them a rain gauge. So then they start to note down the rainfall every day at 8:30, and they create a record and a diary. So they understand how much water has fallen on the rooftop, what is the extent of water available on an acre of land. Then we give them a water quality testing kit so they check the quality of water that they're drinking. What is the quality of rainwater? What is the quality of water they drink? So they know what is potable water and not potable water. And we also give them grow bags. We give them seeds to grow some plants for themselves and vegetables, and they love nurturing it. So absolutely. I mean, these two talk to each other, and we need to make sure that both of them.
Yeah, we have a 100 school target this year.
Great.
We would love to partner and,
Absolutely. It's completely possible, and it's doable, and it's great fun, and it should be done.
Right. And how much should the school spend additionally for?
So what we do is we get money from CSR, and because we target government schools, they don't have too much, they don't have funds for maintenance. So we make sure that all the funding comes from corporate social responsibility, so they don't have to spend anything.
Okay, but like for private schools, if we had to?
So in private schools, we haven't done it because our target has always been government schools. Private schools do it themselves. We design systems. So we got to figure out how much it costs. Sure. But it depends on the roof area. It depends on the school capacity. And it also depends on whether they already have storage and wells or not. So the cost varies.
Got it. Okay.
But there's enough and more funding available from CSR for many government schools. So
right.
we can do a lot. We've had government school children who got it done in a village called Sonapnalli, actually sitting and exchanging water stories and water distress stories from a school in Uganda on the border of Sudan. And these kids were explaining in their Kannada English, and those kids were explaining in their language. For 2 hours, they were exchanging views, 6th, 7th, and 8th standard students, how rainwater harvesting could help them and what could happen and stuff like that.
Beautiful.
So all these opportunities of interaction can also be created.
So if every child in school could learn one thing about water today, what would that be?
Where does my water come from? Just if you know where my water comes from, and if you then know where does it go, that will be in itself a lesson of respect.
I think we keep talking about it, that if there's one common statement that has been made on Good Food Talks for the last 14 episodes, it is this.
Where does my food come from?
Where does my food come from? Where does water come from? Where does my waste go? It's really just understanding the journey of everything that you consume.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's beautiful.
So I always say in Bangalore that we should get up and pray to the Cauvery every day, because the Mother Cauvery blesses more homes in Bangalore than anywhere in the Cauvery Basin. All the taps that flow because of her. If you're not grateful to her, and if we don't work towards preserving the catchments and the forests of the Western Ghats, which bring the clean water to our homes, we are not good human beings.
Yeah. So in 10 years, what kind of relationship do you think cities will have with water?
I think it will be a very positive relationship. Insofar as Bangalore will be concerned, I think there'll be 186 lakes brimming throughout the year with painted storks and pelicans which come from Siberia and other parts of the world, but which now have UID card and Aadhaar and vote in the Bangalore local elections. They're now local residents because they roost and live here. So there'll be 186 Rangantittus within Bangalore city, so at least 186. These lakes being full will mean the wells in Bangalore will be full of water. There'll be no home which is not connected to the Cauvery or to the groundwater. Every home will have water. That rain will be managed in such a fashion that there's no waterlogging or flooding, but it's used productively to recharge the aquifer or fill the lakes. And that the rivers Dakshin Pinakini, Vrishbhavati and Arkavati will be flowing so clean that people can swim in it, especially children can swim in it. We can do that in 20 years.
Is this wishful thinking, or is this you're saying this is going to happen?
Journey begins with a wishful thinking. If we work towards the goal, we can get it done.
Beautiful.
But if we don't even set ourselves the goal, there's no way that we can get it done. But for sure, this is what should be. A whole bunch of Bangaloreans have learned swimming in open wells. That was the swimming pool. And this is the swimming pool of rural India. If the aquifers collapse, if groundwater table collapse, where will our children know the joys of water? Where will you learn swimming? So therefore, we owe it to ourselves to experience not just the functionality of water, but the pleasure, joy, and cultural relationships that we have nurtured for so long. That should also come back. We shouldn't be guilty of, having a shower for more than 2 minutes, right? The feeling of guilt should go away. And we should enjoy water, and we should respect water and value it.
Okay, so there is a section we have called This or That. I'll
yes, okay.
ask you a few questions. Rainwater or treated grey water?
Rainwater.
Policy change or citizen movement?
Policy change.
Urban farms or rural revival?
Both. In this particular case, I can't choose.
Save lakes or save tanks first?
Save lakes.
Live near a lake or live off the grid?
Live near a lake.
And why?
Off the grid distances you from the community. If I don't need electricity from the grid, if I don't need water from the grid, I don't care a damn about what the rest of society is doing.
Got it.
But if I know that my water comes from the Cauvery, then I will do my best, hopefully, to make sure that the Cauvery flows. Off the grid is very narcissistic.
Work with schools or work with farmers?
It's a tough question. Both. There's no way that you can choose between these two.
Groundwater recharge or surface water revival?
Surface water revival, because it will recharge groundwater. That's why.
Treated wastewater for farming? You've said yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, we have some questions around food. Not connected to water, just how you think about food. Organic or conventional?
Organic.
Locally grown or supermarket produce?
Locally grown as much as possible.
And where do you source your vegetables from? Fruits and vegetables?
I grow a lot of my vegetables on my rooftop.
Okay.
I got sick of tupad hirekai, which has grown so much that I've been eating it for breakfast, lunch and dinner, and I don't want tupad hirekai in my life. But that's the productivity of particular vegetables.
Yeah.
A lot of it grows on the terrace.
And fruits?
Fruits, we source it locally, but we get as much as possible. Chitra is responsible for that division.
Okay. Rice or millets?
I love rice.
Okay.
But I love millets too. But the choice is red rice and then millets. I haven't got around to eating millets on a daily basis.
Yeah. The texture change, I think, takes time for all of us to sort of get used to.
True. But Anna Puttupa is God's gift to mankind, right? So,
home cooked meal or restaurant outing?
Home cooked meal any day.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
Okay. Seasonal fruits or imported berries?
No, seasonal fruits, no doubt about that.
Cooking with RO water or tap water?
Rainwater. I cook with rainwater. Not RO, no way RO water. Tap water if available, but rainwater is the best.
So tell me something like if the place where you're living, RO is not required and you have a regular simple, I'm just asking for myself, simple aquaguard and you boil the water. Is that enough to avoid? Yeah.
Absolutely. If you have aquaguard, you don't have to even boil the water. If you boil the water, you don't need aquaguard.
Okay. Like my aquaguard is like some 30-year-old aquaguard, which...
Yeah, you better check that because what it does is a bad filter actually contaminates the water. We did one check in the office that I used to work in. The input water was good, but the output water had bacteria.
No. So, I'll use that test that you spoke of.
The H2S wild test.
Right. So that was really wonderful. And I think I learned a lot of things today. As someone who's living in the city and, is living, I would say, a disconnected life. I think more of these conversations are making me feel that that's not the right way to live in your own isolated islands, but becoming a part of a larger community, larger society and seeing how you can contribute. So thank you so much, Vishwanath,
my pleasure.
Coming and talking to us so much about what is happening with the water around us.
Yes, and it's an optimistic world, so we better keep hope and work towards it. Thanks a lot for having me here.
Thank you.